Welcome to Gameday U Hoops. We have a packed show for you tonight covering all things Oklahoma hoops. We'll cover OU women's basketball, men's basketball, high school, and the OKC Thunder for you tonight, but I'm not doing it alone. My name is Tyler DeLuke, and I'm joined by Kenzie Eiserman, Melina Samir, and Emily LeBeth. Y'all ready to talk some hoops?
Oh, of course. Let's get started.
Let's do it. Let's not waste any more time then. On Sunday, the OU women's team traveled to Lawrence for a matchup against the Kansas Jayhawks. The Sooners struggled stopping the Jayhawks' three-headed monster of Zakiya Franklin, Holly Kerskeeter, and Tiana Jackson, who combined for 73 of Kansas's 80 total points. But it would take more than 80 to beat the Sooners, who would follow behind 23 points from Maddie Williams to win 86-80. This win would continue the Sooners' 6-game win streak. Here's what Jenny Baranczyk had to say about how her team overcame the Jayhawks.
Feels good right now, to be honest, and I think, this group, we have such special players on this team. We've got great depth, and I think our seniors really came today to really lead this one. And you could tell we were a little bit rattled, and I thought they did a great job of being able to really steady us. But again, I mean, it was great play by both teams, and a lot of players had some great moments tonight.
You know, I mentioned Maddie Williams there, but another player I want to highlight, I talked about it last week, Chef Boy Aubrey. Aubrey Jones has found her role on this team and has come into her own, and she is becoming such a huge asset for the Sooners team with postseason play looming.
No, I agree, Tyler. Jones is her own beast, but the whole team, OU had 47.6% from the three-point line, whereas KU couldn't keep up to that and only had 36.4%. I think that if they keep beating their opponents from the three-point line, they're going to continue winning games.
I agree. OU is making a statement from downtown, but one player was dominant as ever against KU's defense, and that was Maddie Williams. Tallying 23 points, 5 rebounds, 5 steals, and 3 assists. She's balling out this season, but the work's not done yet.
You are completely right, Melina. Maddie Williams is a huge part of OU's success. Another factor is the Sooners' ability to finish strong and win close games. OU was trailing by double digits in the first half, but still secured the win by shooting well from deep and by holding the Jayhawks to 12 points in the fourth quarter. They need to stay hot if they want to stay high in the Big 12 rankings.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and all those points are going to have to come into play because, folks, the game of the year is here, and the stakes can't get much higher. The Red River rivalry is already an easy sell. Now let's add some more to this. Both OU and Texas are tied at the top of the Big 12 Conference with only 2 regular season games following this matchup. Plus, the March Madness Committee just dropped their top 16 to host. Texas was ranked 13th. Oklahoma left out again. Pressure is on the winner. The winner controls their destiny. Here's what Ana Yunusa had to say about the game.
Being as good as we are, I think we deserve a big crowd, and we would really appreciate a big crowd. But I think we're all just excited for just to get to play another game together. We're really staying in the moment and staying where our feet are and staying steady. And obviously this game is a big game, not just because of the standings, but just of who it is. It's a rival game, so it makes it 10 times more better.
We'll have more from my exclusive sit-down with Ana Yunusa later in the show, but we heard her thoughts on the game. Now I want to hear from my analyst up here. Kenzie, what do you have your eye on?
Well, I've got one UT player that I will not be taking my eyes off, and that is sophomore guard Rory Harmon. Now, Texas and OU are pretty close in assists, but Harmon is Texas's main girl for it. She's averaging 7 assists per game versus OU's go-to girl Nevaeh Tot, only averaging 4 per game. Not only is Harmon a playmaker, on top of that, she's averaging over 12 points per game. If OU officially wants to be #1 in the Big 12, they're just going to have to be ready for Harmon.
I agree with you, Kenzie. Harmon is a great UT player, but someone who has my eyes on is simply Shaylee Gonzalez. She is making a statement beyond the line and beyond. She is one of UT's regular rotation players who is shooting better than 70% from the line. And not only that, she's leading UT in scoring this season, a whopping 347 points. If Texas can't pull their weight when playing at pennies, they may lose to OU by a few points.
I agree that Texas has some standout players to watch for, but the Sooners need to focus on how to outpace the Longhorns' physical defense. How do they do that? By starting quickly and scoring quickly. In their last matchup, the Longhorns put a strong hold on OU's powerhouse offense, allowing only one Sooner to score in double figures. As long as Texas doesn't slow their offense down, OU can snag that top spot in the Big 12.
Emily, I agree completely because that last game, slow start, and Oklahoma couldn't really battle back from that. And if they let Harmon or Gonzalez get going, it's going to be a great one either way. I can't wait. I can't wait for it to be Saturday. But we're going to switch over to some men's basketball and see how the men's team fared this week as they look to punch their ticket to postseason play. Stick around. Welcome back to Game Day U Hoops. We have talked about the women's team, so let's switch it over to some OU men's basketball. On Tuesday, we learned just hours prior to the game that Bijan Cortez will be taking a step away from the team, but the Sooners would have to try and overcome his absence against Texas Tech at home. Unfortunately for OU, they could not protect home court. Texas Tech would end up shooting 62% from the field and an insane 58% from three. Tech would also dominate the boards by out-rebounding OU 38-22. Overall, not a winning formula for the Sooners. Tanner Groves would lead OU in scoring with 16, but ultimately OU would lose 74-63. Here's what Porter Moser had to say about his team missing 24 threes.
For the most part, we had some really good looks. We might have taken one early in transition in the first half that I would love to attack, but we make those a handful of times. But yeah, I thought we took good shots from three. I mean, I don't think we might have taken one or two at the end of a shot clock maybe, but for the most part, we were getting they were giving you some open threes, and we just didn't knock them down.
All right, guys, 3 games left, 3 ranked teams. To say time's running out it's starting to become an understatement. You know what I mean? Like it's time. If you're going to get a ticket into postseason play, the time is now. You think they can do it?
See, I'm just really tired of watching OU slack game after game. But I will not stop saying this until there's a change. OU has to keep pushing no matter what. It's disappointing to get excited for a possible win to just watch them look like they're blindfolded for the last half of the game.
I agree. OU's been sloppy, and this was a tough loss for OU. But how many times have we said that this season? In case you were wondering, 15 times. The Sooners shot 27 points, 3% from the arc, and was not any better in the field. This was a despicable performance by OU against a mediocre Texas Tech team.
Yeah, like you said, Melina, the OU men could not get the ball in the basket. The Sooners were outscored, out-rebounded, and simply just outplayed. OU needs to capitalize on their offense if they want to avoid another sloppy and disappointing loss.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys. I mean, it was kind of just complete domination. It was a close game. Yeah. It was a close game, but when you look at the team stats, it was domination really across the board. And I mentioned that the next games are going to be against ranked opponents. So let's look at that next game against number 23 Iowa State. The last time these two teams faced off, the Sooners fell short 63-60. Jalen Hill had this to say about the Sooners coming up short in those close games.
Every loose ball is theirs. Not hitting shots, not getting boards. Just a little bit of everything to a sense, and then we just got to find ways to make plays.
Well, it might be the understatement of the century to say the Sooners need to win this game against the Cyclones. Kenzie, what do you have your eye on looking ahead to this game?
See, typically I got a player, but this time I don't have a particular player. Instead, I have Iowa State as a whole. They're built different. Now, I know that the Sooners and the Cyclones stats are very similar, but we're talking about a team that's held almost all Big 12 schools below their season scoring average. Iowa State allows the least amount of points per game with 62. OU, like I mentioned earlier, already struggles with scoring in the end, so once these Cyclones get in the groove of the game, the Sooners won't be able to come out of it.
I agree with you, Kenzie. The last meeting between the Sooners and the Cyclones was not a great one for Porter Moser's squad. OU fell to Iowa State by a measly 3 points back in January. And now, Oklahoma and Iowa State are on a 2-game losing streak. This game is crucial for OU, not only as it is one of the last 3 games of the regular season, but it could be a determining factor for OU possibly making the tournament.
Yes, this is definitely a critical game for OU, who is currently sitting last in the Big 12 standings. If they want to make it to the big dance, they have to play aggressively the entire game. This season, the Sooners continue to fall short in the final minutes of close games. They need to break that habit now. The Cyclones play at a slower pace and will force a defensive battle. So OU should play an aggressive game on offense by getting points off of turnovers and offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game, seeing if they can get it done. But this past week was the All-Star break in the NBA. But up next, we're going to do a little bit of year in review for the boys up 35 in OKC next on Gameday U Hoops. Welcome back to Gameday U Hoops, and while this past week was the All-Star break, that doesn't mean we can't talk some Thunder basketball. Let's look at the season so far and see what the Thunder have accomplished. Currently, the Thunder sit at 28-29 for the season, which puts them in the last play-in spot in the Western Conference. The gem who has shined the brightest for OKC is All-Star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is currently averaging over 30 points per game. And not the most active trade deadline for OKC, but one move was made, bringing in Dario Saric from Phoenix. Here's Josh Giddey on his newest teammate.
I mean, he's a big, smart guy, can stretch the floor for us. He's a big body. So he does a lot for our team, really smart player, great guy as well. So I was really excited when I heard he was coming over here. Guys love him. Guys are going to love to play with him. And he's going to be a big piece of what we're doing.
I agree with Josh. I'm also excited to see more from Super Dario, but I want to hear from you three. What are your takeaways from the season so far?
Now, Tyler, since my freshman year here at OU, the Thunder haven't been the best in those seasons, but this year, this was the year they decided to change that. The last season, they only won 22 games. 22! This year they've won 28 and the season isn't even over yet. We're now talking about a team that is currently third in the Northwest Division, whereas last year they were 14th in the West. So I really only think you can go up from here.
I agree with you, Kenzie. But as we all know, this is a breakout year for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he ultimately carried OKC on his back this season. He is averaging nearly 30 points a night and shooting roughly 50% from the field. With that being said, Josh Giddey and company need to pull their weight and help SGA on the floor. The play-in game is within their reach, and it's all hands on deck as the regular season closes out.
I agree. SGA needs help if they want to make a playoff run. But if the Thunder have done one thing this season, it is exceed expectations. Lots of doubt surrounded this young team, but they proved they are a force to be reckoned with. Rookie star Jalen Williams has shined as a double threat player, and the Thunder's success this year is setting them up for a bright future.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Before the season started, obviously you draft Chet Holmgren high in the draft, then he gets hurt, and the entire fan base just kind of let out a long sigh, like, oh, God, not again. But then Jalen Williams, J-Dub, his improvement across this entire season has really made this a fun one. And then you add in SGA. I mean, it's just been an incredible season.
Oh, absolutely. I can't say that I was ever a Thunder fan before this season. And like I mentioned earlier, they're in their comeback season. So what's a better way to end a season than getting to playoffs? So I'm really looking forward to see him play at that next level.
I agree with you, Kenzie. The Thunder is great, but they're down a shooter. Mike Muscala, traded to Boston, was detrimental to OKC, who's currently hitting 36% of its attempts from deep. So SGA and Giddey need to up the tempo from the arc in hopes of keeping the floor spread.
Yes, the Thunder have the third easiest strength of schedule remaining in the NBA, so they need to use that to their advantage to sneak their way into the postseason. They are coming off a dominant win against the Rockets, so as long as they stay competitive and keep their momentum going, OKC has a good shot at a playoff run.
All right, well, we talked about a lot of potential stars there, so let's keep it going. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other potential stars in the Sooner State, plus my exclusive one-on-one sit-down with OU's Ana Yanusa. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Gameday U Hoops. It's time to talk some high school basketball. Brig Bates is joining us now. Brig, what do you got for us this week?
Tyler, it's officially playoff time in Oklahoma high school hoops. Welcome back to Ballin' with Brig. Norman North men's basketball head coach Kellen McCoy spoke exclusively with me about his Timberwolves ahead of the playoffs.
We were able to finish 8-2 our last 10 games and beat some good teams, and so I love where we're at right now going in the playoffs. I think We've earned a lot of respect when we didn't really have a ton of respect earlier on in the season.
The Norman North Timberwolves only won 3 of their first 10 games, but Coach McCoy is proud of how his team has responded to adversity early in the season and flipping the switch at the right time.
And these guys have never given up for 1 second. They've continued to come back and show up and work harder and harder and harder. And I'm glad that they're reaping the benefits of it now and starting to see the success of the work that they put in. And I think that we've got an opportunity to go pretty far in the playoffs, and so I'm excited for them. But this group is special. They're special. They're resilient. They fought through a lot of adversity, and they prevailed.
Norman North Timberwolves finished their season strong, giving them home court advantage in the first round of playoffs. The Timberwolves will tip off at 6 o'clock at Norman High versus Northwest Classen. Tyler, back to you.
Thanks, Brig. The biggest matchup in basketball across the state this week is OU Texas, the women's game. I talked all about it. You know the hype is there. I got to sit down with senior Sooner Anna Yanusa for an exclusive one-on-one interview about the matchup and more. Tyler DeLuca here, and I am joined by Oklahoma Sooner Anna Yanusa. Anna, thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's kind of just get straight into it. Just kind of generally this season, where do you feel like the team is at right now? What type of improvements do you feel like are still left to be made going into postseason play?
I think we're in a really great spot right now. I think we've been growing each and every day, and I think everybody's bought into what we're doing, and I think that's the most important thing as of right now is to be bought in, because you'll find some teams that are not fully bought into each other or bought into what the coaches are doing, and I think our leadership and just the younger teammates that we have that are looking up to us and following what we're doing, I think we're in a great spot.
So now, obviously, that 6 years is coming to an end soon. Senior night, when you're kind of looking ahead to that, what emotions are you kind of expecting to feel when that day comes for senior night?
I would just say a lot of gratitude, and I'm just grateful that I've gotten to be here. And not a lot of people get to say they played or been in college on a basketball team for 6 years. And like I said, the opportunities that have come with it, the opportunity to play for 2 different coaches, the things I learned from Coach Cole and the things that I'm learning now from Jenny are just 2 very different things that were very beneficial for me and in my life. And I'm just grateful that I even got the chance to experience all of it.
I feel like OU Texas is one of the ones, like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you
yeah,
don't. You know,
if you get it, you get it, you don't.
We're both from Oklahoma. As an
sure.
Oklahoma native, when you hear OU Texas, what kind of emotions does that bring up? What kind of feelings does that bring up, knowing that you're representing Oklahoma going against Texas?
Right. It makes you like want to play with a chip on your shoulder. You want to play like 10 times bigger than you actually are. Like I'm 5'11", and it makes me want to play like I'm 6'3". Like it just makes you want to be so much bigger and stronger that day, and meaner. Like it brings an aggression out of you, and it's just fun. I'm sure it's fun for them too. It's just a fun game, especially if you're from Oklahoma and you know what it means. I mean, T-Rob's grown up an OU fan, so she kind of really knows what that means too. So.
Listen, I don't know about y'all at home, but Anna has me fired up for that Red River game on Saturday. But I'm also fired up for Pick'em, which is next here on Gameday U Hoops, so stick around. Welcome back to Gameday U Hoops. I am now joined by Britton Ross, Brig Bates, and Pierce Levelholtz. I'm ready to get some picks from you 3, so let's dive right into these games. All right, we have a Texas standoff in the Big 12, the Texas Longhorns and Baylor Bears for a top-ranked men's matchup. Britton, who do you got?
Baylor has lost back-to-back games, and they're going to be hungry to get a top 10 win and defend home court. The Bears have 3 of the top 5 players in threes per game in the Big 12 this year. Baylor's taking this one.
You're spot on, Britton. Baylor will be licking their chops as Texas comes into town. Baylor is a monster at home as they are 13-2 this season with fans backing them, while Texas is only 4-4 on the road.
Yeah, the 3-headed monster that Britton talked about is huge for the Bears, but more specifically Keontae George. The freshman phenom leads the team with 17 points per game and has the ability to completely take over the game. Expect George and company to break the losing streak with a big win for the home crowd.
All right, so the Baylor Brooms coming out. A little bit of a sweep there. Okay, we'll take it to the women's side now for Stanford versus Utah. Utah has been surging behind Alyssa Peely's All-American level season, and Stanford just squeaked by in double overtime against Colorado. Britton, who do you got?
You know what separates good teams from great teams? winning on the road. And don't get me wrong, Utah's good, but Stanford's great. And like you said, coming off a gritty double overtime win at Colorado, they're going to be able to get this dub against Utah on the road.
Britton, I have to disagree with you. That double OT win was cute, but this team is going against the Utah is getting a free win tonight against the Cal Golden Bears, while Stanford just went into a double OT thriller against number 21 Colorado. I expect Utah to be well rested heading into Saturday, while Stanford's legs will be gassed coming off a tough double OT game.
Yeah, Alyssa Peely is a force to be reckoned with, averaging 20 points per game. She was a game-time decision tonight. She had 21 points at the half. At the half. Wow. Utah is undefeated at home. And as we near the end of the season, I like the Utes to tie things up at the top of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think Peely's going to be Pac-12 Player of the Year, but Haley Jones and Cameron Brink are not going to want to let them come in there and win that game. But last but not least, some top-level NBA action in a classic Northeastern rivalry. The Celtics going to the play in the always very kind city of Philadelphia against the Sixers. Britton, who are you picking?
Jason Tatum just won All-Star Game MVP, and the Boston Celtics have been the best team in the Eastern Conference all season. Tatum's skill set combined with the physicality of Marcus Smart, it's going to set Celtics up really nice for a deep postseason run. Boston's got this one easy.
You couldn't have said it better, Britton. Boston has won three of their last games against the Sixers, beating them by an average 21 points. And post-All-Star break is when teams separate themselves from the rest of the league. I expect Tatum and company to show Philly no type of brotherly love.
Yeah, clean sweep for the Celtics here. I also like Boston. Jason Tatum is just an animal. He's leading the team in points per game with 30 and 8 rebounds per game. I expect a masterclass from Tatum for the rest of the way as they try to distance themselves from Giannis and the Bucks.
All right, I think I'm taking Philly on that one. I'll be the odd man out. But that will do it for us, for Britton Ross, Brig Bates, and Pierce Leffelholtz. I am Tyler DeLuca, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place, on Game Day U Hoops.